And this next question is personal, and so you don't have to answer it if it's
No worries.
too personal. Oh boy. Okay. So your parents were German Jews who fled Nazi persecution in the 1930s. If they were here with us right now, how do you think they would respond to your views on Israel-Palestine?
I don't know. I mean, they died so many years ago. I think that I do hope that they would, in 2024, agree with me. I think that in 1918, maybe they would not have agreed with me. They would still be very Zionists, and under their the influence of the indoctrination. Israel is a very indoctrinated country, as they would find it difficult because they were manipulated, like so many other Jews, by an education system, political system, and so on. And they might have found it. They would have bought into the fear from Arabs, from Palestinians. Unfortunately, I think they would have subscribed to the racist views by Israeli Jews towards Arabs and Palestinians. So I don't think they were able to transform because they were part of the settler colonial project. But since they died when I was very young, it's for me, it's a very hypothetical question because when they died, the Zionist project was very young, and maybe even myself, if I were 20 years old when they died, I might have not have yet developed the ideas that I did develop through research, through the passage of time, and so on. So it's difficult to say. I can tell you that members of my family are still alive today, which is less than hypothetical questions, are still don't agree with me, and they are fearful. The one thing they do agree, that there's no hope and horizon for Israel in the future, but they think that this is fate, that Israel should be involved in the next 50 years in wars and bloodshed, and would hope not to be destroyed and always win the next wars. Which I tell them is that what you're telling your children and your grandchildren, that this is the future? I do offer your grandchildren and children a much better future.
Can I ask how your parents died?
Oh yeah, natural death, because they were old. They begat us when we were old. So no, my father died when he was 60, so not that old, from cancer. My mother died more after that, but more just regular illness. So.
Some Jews are worried that destruction to Israel could mean metaphorically or literally destruction to Jews or to Judaism, and that Israel represents, both metaphorically and physically, security for Jews. How do you think about this? Is that rational? Do you think that Israel is essential and helpful for Jews and Jewish security around the world? It was founded in light of the Holocaust, as a point.
Well, first of all, it wasn't founded because of the Holocaust. It was founded long before the Holocaust. It was founded in 1882 when Zionist colonization,
Israeli statehood. I mean, Israeli becoming a state.
Yeah, Israel became a state after the Holocaust. But the wish to create a Jewish state instead of Palestine preceded the Holocaust. Remember this, the first Zionist Congress, already in 1897, envisaged Palestine not as an Arab state, but as a Jewish state. And later on, the leaders of Zionism in the 1920s and the 1930s, long before the Holocaust, said that the only way of creating a Jewish state is by getting rid of the Palestinians. So I think that's important. It's a factual kind of comment, which is important. But I understand what you're talking about. But I think just for the record, it's important to say this. Now, secondly, I think it's quite bizarre to say that Israel is a safe place for Jews. It's the only place where Jews are dying. It's the only place where a large number of Jews died since the Holocaust is Israel. More than 30,000 Jews have died in Israel since 1948. So how can it be the safest place for Jews? I don't understand the logic of it. That's my second point.
Well, I think part of the logic is that Israel is a nuclear superpower, and so if another Hitler rose up in some part of the world, you would have Israel with nuclear power to hypothetically defend the Jews from another Holocaust.
Well, we have some very interesting examples. When the regime of generals in Argentina chase Jews because most of the Jews, many of the people who objected to the general's regime in Argentina were Jews, and when they were under the danger of being, tortured and executed by the general's regime. And when they went to the Israeli embassy closed its doors because it had a special relationship with the Argentinian generals. So I don't think Israel will be there for any Jews when they're under the danger of extermination. But I do think that far more important is to see that Israel did not help to defeat anti-Semitism. It helped actually to increase anti-Semitism. Our hope as Jews lies in two ideas that Zionism objects to. And that's why I'm an anti-Zionist and will always be an anti-Zionist. One is that Jewish racism against Jews is different than any racism against any other people. That's a Zionist idea. I don't accept it. I think the racism that killed millions of Africans in the slave trade is as bad as the racism that killed Jews in the Holocaust. And therefore, I don't accept it that our fight to make sure that there isn't another Holocaust has to focus on racism against Jews. Our hope to prevent not only Holocaust against the Jews, but Holocaust against any other people is by fighting universally against racism.
Can I jump in? What about the claim that anti-Semitism has existed longer than other types of racism?
Historically, it's not true. I can show you racism in the Greek, in ancient Greek, there was racism against slaves. I mean, racism is part of human propensity. What can you do? People need apparently to feel better by claiming that there is an other that they hate. I think this is really, I said I wanted to say two things. I said one thing is this hierarchy of racism that Zionism insists on only increased anti-Semitism. We need universal struggle against racism, wherever it is, and that would be the best panacea against another Holocaust. That's the first thing to say. Secondly, you do not convince people that in order to prevent another Holocaust, you are allowed to inflict another Holocaust of the Palestinians. Where's the logic in it? Where is the logic in it? Zionism has this problem that it is an inherent moral problem that supposedly the problem that it came to solve, it instead of solving it, it is making the problem even worse. Even worse. Now, fighting against racism is a huge human project, as huge as fighting global warming. Very difficult, very difficult. But it cannot be achieved by, a league of racism. It can only be achieved by principle struggle against racism. And secondly, I think there is people, I cannot prove it until it will happen. But really, I lived for so many years in Israel. And I speak Arabic, and I live with Palestinians. I'm part of the Palestinian political scene. I really, I cannot prove it until it will happen. But I must tell you that I am 100% confident that the basic impulse of the vast majority of Palestinians is to have normal, natural life in Palestine. They are not looking for revenge. They are not looking for killing Jews. They are not looking for another Holocaust. They want normal life, which they were denied for more than a century. I really see myself living in a state, even if the Palestinians would be a majority in it, which has far less racism and abuses of human rights and civil rights than Israel today. I'm not saying it would be a perfect state. I'm not saying that this is a marriage of two lovers. I mean, the one-state solution, it would be very difficult, and it will have to be maintained through investment of a lot of effort by people who believe in it, undoubtedly. But it would be, in my mind, much better. And I think the reason I'm there is because, unlike most of the Israeli Jews, I have a very different perception of who the Palestinians are, what they want and what they wish, and what they have suffered, which most Israelis are not aware. And even if they're aware, they don't show much compassion towards that side.